In this lesson, we will look at early economics as part of principles of business. Stay tuned. Before we identify anything, we need to understand what is the economic problem. Our unlimited needs and wants far exceed the limited resources available to satisfy our needs. Due to the fact that our needs are unlimited and wants are far exceeding the limited resources as stated, it leads us to something called scarcity. And this is a fundamental economic problem of having seemingly unlimited human wants in a world of limited resources. It states that society has insufficient productive resources to fulfill all human wants and needs. Therefore, scarcity leads to a very important term that we need to know, which is choice. Because resources are limited and our wants are unlimited, we often are put in a position where we must make a choice, making a decision between several choices. Example, having to make a choice at the grocery store, okay? So, for example, when we buy something, we always give up something, which is the opportunity cost, okay? But because resources are limited, we normally make a choice in what we want to satisfy our needs, whether it be for a short-term period or for a long-term period. Remember, the economy, this is a place or location where economic activity exists. For example, where consumers and producers interact. Now, this definition is similar to what is a market, a place where buyers and sellers meet. Remember, buyers are consumers, producers are sellers. But in an economy, it's basically the same thing. This is any place or location where economic activity exists and where consumers and producers interact. Economies also interact with the government and the international sector. The very first economy that we would mention in principles of business is a subsistence economy. This occurred amongst early humans whose basic needs and wants were food, shelter, and clothing. These are called our primary needs, right? This is still our basic needs: food, water, and clothing. Okay, food, shelter, and clothing, sorry. The needs of a village were satisfied from nature only providing for themselves. This is also called direct production. And it is called direct production because it is where we produce for ourselves directly. So, for example, in a subsistence economy, people would have planted crops that will give them food. They would have bred animals that will bring them food, and they would often provide for their niche or their pocket in which they live in. We talk about now the division or the specialization of labor. Specialization now is the breaking up of task or division of one big task into many little tasks for the purpose of productivity and efficiency. We specialize in 6 different ways. For example, by product, fish farming, poultry, cattle. Is either we farm fish, chickens, or cattle. We specialize by process. For example, oil extraction, then we refine it, and then the byproduct, lubricants and gas. We specialize by firm. For example, Microsoft deals with software, tablets, cell phones, or Google, right? By industry, we have the tourism industry, transportation industry, agricultural industry, and the extractive industry. And the extractive industry is the primary industry that deals with getting stuff off of the earth to use. And then we specialize by region. Example, the northern region of Trinidad, or by nation. Example, Trinidad's oil, Switzerland's chocolate, and Germany's automobiles. So specialization is breaking up of a big task into small tasks, right? Think about it. Imagine we have one firm that does all the farming, and one firm that does all the processing, and one firm that handles everything. Then it will be monotonous, it mightn't be efficient, but specialization allows people to break up small tasks into one big task into smaller tasks for the purpose of getting it done. Okay, so here we have a diagram at the bottom here for work specialization. And basically, each employee that I'm putting little X's by has a separate job to do to finalize one big task. Okay? So the first employee deals with framing, the second employee deals with siding, third employee deals with painting, the last one is inspection to make sure the others did their job, and the last employee ships it out of the company. Imagine the person who frames, let's call her Mary. Imagine Mary had to frame, side, paint, inspect, and then ship out. So when Mary is supposed to be making or framing 5, Mary will now be framing 1 because she has to side it, paint it, inspect it, and ship it. But if Mary had a team of people doing different things, so there's one product. So Mary frames, Tom side, Suzanne paint, Jeffrey inspect, and then Jeremy ships. Then we have a full team doing one. Everybody specialized in their own thing, and the task is done faster. So whereas Mary producing one product for the day, they can now produce about 10 or 15 products for the day. And hence we have productivity and by extension, efficiency. We have advantages and disadvantages of specialization, and we will start with the advantages. The first advantage is the fact that there's less time to train person to perform one job. So instead of training Mary to do everything, we train her to do one task only, and this will save time. Tools are less expensive because the jobs are less complex. So we just have tools for those specific tasks rather than one big thing. We have output or production is increased. Remember, if Mary by herself should produce 1, however, when we add her team, they produce 15 because everything is repetitive. Keyword here, repetitive. Machines can be used to speed up production. Because they specialize in now, we can now input machinery and it can make productivity levels then increase. By this, efficiency is improved in terms of time, and skill of workers is also improved because of the repetition of doing one thing over. Mary is now a skilled worker. Then we have standardized production. So because things are not as hard as it seems, we are able to lower the cost for our product. Now we have some disadvantages. Specialization cannot work for niche or small markets. So let's say we're making a cupcake. We cannot include specialization in that because that's a task one person could do easily. It is difficult to motivate workers who do repetitive tasks. Imagine Mary has to go to work every single day and do the same thing from 8 to 4 every single day for the rest of her life. It's going to get boring for Mary. Then we have industrial action is easier to organize and more effective. So workers cannot be easily replaced. So if one man down in the team effort or the specialization, then it hampers the whole team because what Mary finishes, she passes it to Tom. If Tom happens to stay home on that particular day, then Lucy don't have an end product to work with. Machines allow for individual craftsmanship to be lost. So craftsmanship in terms of handmade gestures is no longer there. And can be disruption in the change of production if a worker is ill or absent. So because one person is not there, the chain of production is thrown off. And then we have occupational immobility, unable to transfer skills learned to other jobs. So because you've been doing one thing over and over, let's say you have to leave the job and take up another job, chances are the job you're taking up, unless it's something like this, most likely something different, you're going to be in some trouble and it'll be a bit of retraining is involved because chances are Mary cannot take that skill she learned in the company and take it to another company, okay, because she may be doing a different task. So these were the advantages and disadvantages of specialization. We're now talking about a very common topic in POB, which is barter. And barter is basically the exchange of goods and services without the use of money. So bartering happened before money was created. Money will be dealt with in a separate lesson. But basically, people traded the commodities they have without using money. But there were some disadvantages to bartering. For example, a double coincidence of ones. Therefore, the exchange can only happen if one party desires what the other party has and it is back and forth. So look at these two fellas here in this picture here. We have, let's call him Tim, and let's call him John. So Tim and John wants to trade. So Tim looks like he have, let's say, beef, and John has fish. Bartering will only work if John wants Tim beef and if Tim wants John's fish. If they don't want what each other have, then they cannot exchange. Okay? So this is the first disadvantage. Another disadvantage is the rate of exchange could be difficult to be decided upon. So imagine I want fish and another person, I want fish, but I have gold to offer, and another person has fish, and the only thing I have to trade is my gold. The rate of exchange for gold is way more than what a fish is. So me trading a piece of gold for a piece of fish is kind of unfair. So the rate of exchange can be difficult to decide upon. Some goods are not divisible, right? Some goods we can't divide it and say, well, I'm giving you a piece of gold and this is worth so much. I expect 3 cows in return for this piece of gold. It's not going to work so. Basically, what we have, we trade. Goods are bulky and difficult to transport. And then the store value. Some goods are perishable and cannot store for a long time. So all these factors are the disadvantages of bartering. We now move on to terms and concepts relating to business. And this is the very, very first objective in the syllabus before anything. And it is important that we understand each term. The first term is capital or producer goods. These are tangible assets or goods that are used to produce other goods. Example, buildings, vehicles, stocks, and raw materials. We now move on to consumer goods, and consumer goods are that ultimately consumed rather than used in production of another good. So consumer good is like the final product, something we just buy and use as consumers. We have now primary goods, and these are goods that are utilized in the production of consumer goods, okay? So for example, raw materials, agriculture, fishing, farming. So let's say I want to get a certain type of fish in the market. The primary good is the fish, but if I want this fish processed, I might get it in a can, and that's the end product, which is the final product, okay? The consumer is a person who purchases the goods and services for personal use and plays a vital role in the economy. In order for businesses to thrive, we need consumers. Then we have what is called free goods, and a good that is not scarce and available without limits, example, air, desert, sand, water in the oceans, etc., are free goods, meaning anybody could access it at any time. Then we have what is called private goods, and this is defined in economics as an item that yields positive benefits to people that is excludable. That is, the owner can exercise private property rights, preventing those who have not paid for it from using it. And the goods are consuming its benefits, example, bread. So if I buy a bread, this is for me to eat, for me and my family. So you can't just go and take my bread and eat it. Or if I have a car, you can't just use it freely and willingly, just start it and go. That is my private good. Then we have public goods. These are non-exclusive. For example, no one individual can exclude another individual from receiving its benefits. Example, a road. I can't stop someone from driving any public road. That's a property of the government. That is there for everybody to use. Then we have merit goods. Merit goods are goods that, when used, contributes to benefits to wider society. Like example, education. Under education, we have stuff like books, stationaries, maybe anything that is used to contribute a benefit or to grow society is a merit good. Then we have demerit goods, which is the opposite of merit goods. So the things that have the goods that are used and consumed that have a negative impact in society. This is like alcohol, cigarettes, and drugs, etc. We have what is called labor, the human and mental and physical effort of the production process. So labor involves the human and their related mentality and physical efforts. Then we have the market, a mechanism in which allows buyers and sellers to interact in their interests. Example, online buying, the financial market, or even the commodity market, such as the market in Port of Spain, or the one in Macoya, or the one in San Juan. Then we have opportunity cost, and this is the value of the loss incurred as a result of a sacrifice to buy the second or best option, right? So let's say I had an option to buy a car or to pay for my son's degree. So I decided to pay for my son's degree. That is the opportunity cost, right? So the opportunity cost is me paying for my son's degree rather than buying the car, which is the next option I would have done with the money. Then we have organization. Organization is the provision and coordination of the firm's input to achieve the goals and objectives of the firm. So the organization is not a building, it's a group of people working under a coordination of the firm or firm with specific goals and objective in mind that will bring about productivity in a firm. We move on now to talk about a producer. A producer is a person that satisfies human wants by the organization of resources to produce goods and services. Profit is the total revenue that we receive, and it usually exceeds the total cost. Loss now is the opposite of profit and is when the total cost of production exceeds total revenue. So if I spend $100 to bake a bread and I receive $50 return, then I make a loss of $50, right? So the money used in production is always more than what you actually get from it. That is loss. Service. These are intangible activities that are provided to satisfy human wants, such as banking, cleaning, and insurance. So me paying somebody to clean my house is a service. Me going into KFC and somebody packing my food in a box is a service. Even though the good that they're packing is tangible, the fact that they did it is a service. Me depositing a check into the bank is also a service. Then we have direct services, and this is a service that is incurred for one's own sake, right? For example, a haircut, or if I go to repair my car, or if I go to repair my laptop. So indirect services now, that is received along with benefiting from a direct service. The delivery of a pizza, for example. So somebody is delivering a pizza for me for that direct service of me actually purchasing a pizza, okay? Then we have trade or exchange, the exchange of goods and services for money, example, international trade, distinguishable from barter, which is the exchange of goods for goods. And then we have commodity, and this is the good that is used to be traded. This is the actual product. Usually raw materials are primary agricultural products such as coffee or copper, right? A commodity that is used to be traded. Lastly, we move on to enterprise, and this could mean a business. This is used to describe an undertaking of an activity with some degree of difficulty or risk. So somebody starting up a business with their life savings, knowing that it could flop, is considered a risk, right? So we do this under an enterprise. This undertaking has specific purpose such as monetary goals. Enterprise can also mean initiative, which is daring to do something new or different, challenging or risky. Entrepreneurship now is another lesson we're going to look at separately, but we need to know what it is for this purpose. And this is a practice of identifying new innovation or opportunity organizing the finance and other resources, and taking the risk with hope of creating wealth. So me taking my entire life savings to open up a business that could possibly fail is me taking a risk based on this new innovation opportunity that I envision. That is me being an entrepreneur. Therefore, the entrepreneur is the individual who identifies the opportunity and risks the time and money to start to organize this new adventure. And lastly, we have trade. This is the process of buying and selling businesses. This is the process of buying and selling, as we mentioned before. So business engage in trade to make a profit. So I will buy stocks from a manufacturer and resell it by retailing and with hopes of making a profit. And this is how businesses survive, mostly from profits. So this takes me to the end of this tutorial, and I really would appreciate it if you had paused and written the notes for this particular slide and video, because these terms are what comes in your definition section of questions, and it is recommended that you learn them. It's recommended that you know what is battering and you understand the early economics of a subsistence economy. Now, notes will always be posted on this topic for you as well. The slide is just brief, condensed, and concise notes, so I'd encourage you to take it down and learn it and attempt all questions related to it after you read the handout. So thank you for watching this video tutorial.